Okay. Oh, am I? I hope I'm. Oh, look at where I am. The This is a LLCR exercise, and it's a long one. And this is the introduction to it. Hope you take a class maybe one day. That's my advertising. That's enough advertising today. Don't feel like it. Now, this LLCR series, if you if you go to the website, will be here in one of the exercises. There are a whole ton of different exercises. Okay, it'll be down here, and I'll put a little thing that the exercise in this video will be down here. If you're watching the video, obviously, you get that. And if you get the Google Drive, you would go to the courses, and you go to the models, you go to the project finance models, and then you go to the one that says project finance exercises, and you'll find the exercise. Okay, that's just a little introduction, and then I'm going on into the videos. The videos will explain how to compute a forward DSCR, LLCR, which is a painful calculation, and I probably never spent enough effort on it before. Okay, bye. Okay, I'm at the airport in South Africa. I received a question. It's an extremely good question, I think. And the question relates to how do we compute the LLCR? I hope this background noise isn't way too bad, by the way. How do we compute the LLCR if we have changing interest rates and multiple debt issues, and if we also want to compute the LLCR over time, so it's not just a single, just right at the financial close, but we want to compute it going forward. Okay, so I'm going to make some assumptions here. And standard financial close, this timing, and financial close date, construction. Now I want a construction period because we'd like to get the LLCR beginning after the construction period. Okay, we want it at COD. That's when you first want to compute it. So let's put a COD date. Whoops. Shift Control 3, and then let's put a life. Decommissioning. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to have you watch me put in all the time and dates and all that. You've seen that enough. I'm trying to get the check here. I have to go to the and all that. Let's put cash flow, and then I'm just going to put some EBITDA and some growth. Okay, we'll just have it growing, and then let's put some debt assumptions, and let's put the debt amount, and perhaps I don't want to use sculpting here because if I use sculpting, we'll put the repayment. Excuse me, can I get the and how about the of course I should also So let's put the project cost. So the repayment, perhaps we'll use a level repayment. So repayment, let's put the repayment years. Then let's do the interest, make the interest rates, and we'll put the time. So let's start at the financial close date, and then we can have a step up or step down. A lot of times you get a step down, so you put E-date, and then how about we'll put 24. So every 2 years, shift control 3. Let's make the rates go up. So how about the margin? Today, I don't know. Let's make this 1.5%. How about? So let's go to 2%, and then up 0.2. Okay. Control R, shift control P, shift control right arrow, shift control P. Okay. Now let's make a. So I'm not going to put fees or anything else. I'm really just going to focus on this. And maybe this has a repayment of 15 years. And perhaps we have a project cost of 10,000. EBITDA maybe 120. Annual EBITDA 120. Okay, shift control 1, shift control 1. And the growth rate, how about it? We'll make a growth rate of 3%. Okay. And then to illustrate the problem, so let's make this debt amount maybe 4,000. And then let's copy this whole thing. Okay, and make a second debt issue. How about we'll make it put the same sort of structure. Let's make this debt 20 years. Let's make this 3,000. And how about we'll make this 2%, 1.5%, and then increasing. Okay, I don't know why, but so we have two different debt issues, some different cash flow. Now I'm going to switch the video off, but what we'd like to do is compute the LLCR for the different debt issues. Now there's going to be a whole lot of issues here. The changing interest rates are going to be a pain. The changing debt tenors are going to be a pain. I don't know if there's a rule that says we should compute it over 15 years or the 20 years. And to make this, whoops, oh, shoot, I didn't mean to do that. To make this a little more interesting too, let's put a DSRA. And I'm not going to do the DSRA fancy or anything else. And 4,000, 2,000, I don't know. Let's make it 800. Okay? How do we treat the DSRA and the LLCR analysis? So we'll save this as LLCR analysis. Okay, and I'm going to switch off the thing for just a minute while I fill in some of the boring stuff. Okay, so I included the switches, and I showed you the inputs, and I've included some operating margins so that we earn 8% IR, and then we're going to compute the LLCR, as I said. Now if you press, just let's get this ready. Let's press Shift Control C. Okay, this is because I've got the silly video thing on. And why don't we click on the entire sheet and make a couple of formats. So let's go to the home page and conditional formatting. After you click on the whole sheet, let's make a new rule. And if it's the, let's use a formula, and if it's the pre-COD, then we click on this, and you better only click on the title, and we'll put equal true just to make sure we don't have any other junk in here. And let's format pre-COD as one color, and then we'll format post-COD as another color. Okay. And again, keep on the entire sheet, conditional formatting, new rule. We'll use a formula. Click on this time we'll click on the hope the last time I'm pretty sure I remember it now, and put equal true, and we'll use a different format. Okay, and let's make this one gray or something. Okay. So now we have this, and now I'm going to, I think, leave the video on well, so there's the post-COD switch, and did it end somewhere? Yes, it ended when the project ended. Okay, so we have our two switches now. Let's put in our capital expenditures. Okay, and the IDC will include the IDC comes from the two debt schedules. We have debt schedule number 1 plus debt schedule number 2. Okay, and I'm trying to kind of avoid circular references, alternate equal. Let's take the debt number 1. Now, this isn't really quite right because this will not, I guess if no, this will be okay. The debt schedule number 1 is just the total debt here, and we'll issue this debt based on the capex divided by the sum of the total of the same line. Okay, and debt, whoops, that's the percentage, and we'll multiply that percentage by the debt amount, and we'll put the debt schedule number 2 in. Okay, and we'll do the same thing. Take the total divided by the sum of the whole thing. That's to get, the S-curve or whatever, multiplied by the total debt. And then let's take the, I guess this will shift the form. The equity is going to be the total minus this. So this is a very simplistic schedule, and then we'll add the sum up, and we'll better come up to our total. And then our debt 1 will be, of course, I haven't copied, might as well copy this so that you see I didn't do something obviously stupid. Shift Control R, because the generic macros are open, and, it just goes automatically to the end. And let's just make sure it switched when our conditional formatting switched. Oh, that's fine so far. I'm sure I'm going to make a lot more mistakes, but now the opening balance is equal to the closing balance, and we'll put some draws from the debt number 1, and the repayments. Let's put the debt number 1. Now let's make to make the LLCR interesting. How about we'll make debt number 1 on the repayments? We'll make that just a simple old level repayment. I don't want to use sculpting on this one because if we use sculpting, that essentially, at least if you had two debt issues have the same maturity, then the LLCR should just be the same as the DSCR. Perhaps we'll do that later just to prove that to you. So divide this, okay, but only multiply it by the operating switch, because we don't want to start paying it till then, and also that's the pre-COD, there's the operating switch, and let's make it a minimum so that we don't pay off too much, okay. And then we'll put the closing balance as the opening balance plus the draws minus the amount, and then we'll put the interest rate as a lookup, okay, and we'll look up on the did I look up always on the kind of starting date, because I hope that I put my interest rates on using I hope that I put my interest rate starting at the beginning of the month, and I did. Okay. Shift spacebar, and let's put the margin in, and I suppose we should add. We just put a simple kind of assumption in for the margin, and then the formula is almost getting too long, but since I'm being lazy, we'll divide it by 12 and multiply it by the period, and then we can get our interest cost, and then we can take that interest cost and multiply that by the pre-COD switch if it's the construction period, and we can take this interest cost and multiply it by the operating switch if it's after operation, so we get the interest expense. Okay, I think I'm going to stop the video while I do the second one. There's no reason you need to see that again. Okay, so I did the same thing for the second debt issue, but for the second debt issue, I thought, well, let's make it a PPMT function. So let's try to make a level payment. Now that won't work. That won't work really, because we have a changing interest rate, but we can kind of get there. So we can put if it's the operating switch, we're gonna, excuse me, we're gonna have to for this one we'll have to insert a little debt repayment period. Okay, and we can go backwards and put plus if this is the true, so that's when we'll start this, and then we'll put it just below there, a debt repayment switch. We might really need that for both of these when we compute the LLCR, so we'll just put this thing as, we'll put an and. We could have done this with the dates. This thing is bigger than 0, and this thing is less than or equal to the total time periods. Okay, I suppose we could have done that. Now let's put an if statement. If this is true, then put PPMT, and it asks for the period, so we'll put in the period. Oh, it asks for the rate first. Excuse me. And we'll put in the period. Now, because the rate's not constant, it might not fully repay. And then we'll put the number of periods, the F4 of course, and then the total repayment with a minus sign. Okay. And if we want to take the false away, we just can multiply by 0 if you care about that. Okay. And we on Shift Control R. And we should do the same thing here for our other debt. Our other debt. Okay. Now what? This is going very slowly, but what we have. Let's see what happened. Uh-oh. Just a minute. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at this in a minute, but okay, shit. Let me stop the thing for. That was incredibly stupid. I put ×0 instead of ×1. I don't do that obviously, and then unfortunately to make this really a horrible formula, we're going to have to put a minimum function. Put max and minimum. And we'll make sure we never pay off more than the beginning balance of the debt, just like we did earlier. Okay. Okay, and then so what happens is the total payment stays the same, but in the very last period we have a little bit of a discrepancy, and the repayment is a little bit less in that last period. I'm going to have a series of USB device not okay, so far so good. Now we're going to compute the LLCR, and to compute the LLCR, let's just call this one our model, and we're going to compute it under a number of different scenarios. Scenario 1 will be that the interest rates are the same. Shift F11, so we'll put debt scenarios. Okay, and let's what we'll do is go up to the debt inputs. Oh, this was so we'll put the difference. We'll kind of put the interest rates in. So let's get these interest rate dates. I wonder what it did with that little blank. I think that's probably okay. So the interest rate dates for the first one, we start with the beginning period. Okay. I hope I have that. Let's just copy the formulas over. Okay, and then I'm gonna. Why don't I switch it off? This will be for the first. For the first issue, and then we'll put the interest rates. We'll put the interest, the dates, and then the interest rates in scenario 1, and the interest rates in scenario 1 will be just flat. The interest rates in scenario 2 will be our varying interest rates. And in the first, and then we'll have a scenario 2, and then a scenario 3, and we should call it debt structure 1, debt structure 2. Okay, and then what we'll put is, like we do any kind of scenario analysis, let's put a code number. And we'll put the number 1, and we'll make our usual index function, insert a little drop-down box, and when we insert a drop-down box, we'll go to the format control and click and make sure it has another sheet, and back to this sheet. So we'll put our different debt structures in. And then on the cell link, we'll go to the model, back to this one, and click on that. Okay, so we'll have a So this, of course, will down here be the index. Index. And we'll select these three and go up to the code number. There's the F4 button, and copy this across. So I'll come back to the, I'm going to switch it off and then come back to this. And then what we'll do, I suppose I'll wait. When I come back, I'll put these, we'll fill these in from the other sheet. So we'll have all of our interest rates and see what can happen to the different, in different scenarios. And in the debt scenario, in addition to the date, let's put the tenor. So in the first one, we'll just make the tenor of the first issue and the tenor of the second issue the same. So in the very first one, we'll have a simple LLCR just to get us started, and then we'll gradually get more complicated and see what kind of adjustments we have to make in the model to compute the LLCR over time with different debt structures and with different debt types. Okay, so I'm going to, this is assuming that both the interest rates are senior debt. Okay, and I'm going to pause for a while. Okay, so I put the dates in. These are all hardwired, and then you can see these are inputs. And then if we press 2 or 3, it takes this first debt structure. And you notice the first debt structure, all the interest rates are the same. They're different for the two different issues, but the tenors are the same and the interest rates are the same. For number 2, the debt structure, the debt tenor is the same, but the interest rate change over time, and they change differently. And the final one, debt structure 3, are different. So we're going to have different LLCR issues in all of these. This stupid phone thing, what a pain. God. And then, I don't know why it does that damn thing. Then let's go to the tab color. Let's make this tab color red. And what we'll do is just as we would do for a normal scenario, this was scenario number 1. And then we put our interest rates in. And we take all of these things, of course, from the last index line. And then we put scenario number 2, the tenor. And it took me a heck of a long time to make that thing that colors the cells based on the color of the sheets. Nobody likes that thing. But if you have the add-ins here, if you've just put your generic macro and you just click on this little thing and it clicks create tab color, I hope this goes to red. It's the only reason it's taking any time at all is because the video is switched on. So that's our base case where we have everything the same. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go down and compute the CFADS and the waterfall. Now let's make a graph. Okay, so on our graph, just put an if statement and go to the. We're just going to do this for the operating switch, and if it's the operating switch, then let's just put a date in. Otherwise, let's put an NA. An open and close bracket. Okay, and what that will do is allow us to only show a picture of the everything during the construction period. So if we'll get the CFADS, and where is that? It's just above here. EBITDA. I'm going to call that CFADS the EBITDA. And then the interest expense is going to be our interest on the second issue plus the interest on, the interest on our second issue plus the interest on our first issue, okay? And then the repayments will be the repayments on our second issue plus the repayments on our first issue. And I guess if you care, we could compute the dividends, but that doesn't really matter. Okay, so we've got a very simple model. And, oh, here. Okay, let's get the CFADS. Let's get the debt service, interest plus the principal, and let's compute the DSCR and put it. If this denominator is bigger than a really small number, that's not that small a number, but what the hell, divide it. Otherwise, just leave it as a false. Shift, let's, okay, I've got a phone call. Okay. Hello? Okay, so I added a couple of scenarios. One, I just kept, to really get a starting point, I just made the rates exactly flat and exactly the same. In the second one, I made the rates increasing, but the same for the first issue and the second issue. The third one has constant rates, but different for the first one and the second one. And all these gradually, and then we have increasing rates, but different increasing rates for the second one and the first one. Yes, and the final one has a different tenor. So all of these will gradually cause problems in interpretation of the LLCR. Now, I think to illustrate, well, here let's first graph the DSCR. So what we have is as soon as the commercial operation starts, then we have a increasing and decreasing DSCRs. That's why we'll look at the LLCR. Now, if we want to make a graph of these, let's try this. If you select this one and then press Shift F8, so you get a add selection, and then we go to Shift Control. And how do I get rid of this one? Let's try it again. Shift F8 to get to a selection, and you have to be, I suppose, very, very careful to not hit another key and then press. I didn't press Enter, I just pressed the arrow key. Now if we press F11, we get this, and we right click and go to Format Axis and make it a date axis. It makes it a date axis and actually doesn't really do that perfectly. We might as well make it a area chart. Take the first one. Okay, and why did just saying Shift Control 3, does that makes it a date, so I press Shift Control 3 on the dates. So use the NA function, and we got this to work, and then we move the chart. Let's move it to the debt scenarios. Right click on the chart. Okay. Okay. What we're going to do now is excuse me. Shit, sorry about this. Just wasting your time for a minute here. And maybe we'll make it a little smaller so we can kind of see what's going on. Okay, oh, shit. Okay, if we change the rates, I don't see, I hardly see the graph changing. I might have to make things a little bit, I have to check that things are really working too. Oh, here's one. This obviously changed when we changed the debt tenor. Okay. Okay. Excuse me for wasting your time there. Now, if we let's compute the LLCR in the kind of most basic case. If we want to compute this, we need to compute the LLCR. If we just compute it at COD, we could compute the PV of CFADS. Now, I've probably done this for you a number of times, and then you put the debt. We can just prove this works by PV of debt service. Now, the PV of the debt service is going to be, it better be exactly the same as the debt outstanding right at the COD. Now, to do this, the kind of simple way I do this normally is compute the interest rate index. Okay, and then to get the interest rate index, just put a 1 here, and just put an equal sign, and then multiply that by 1 plus the interest rate. Now, in this special case, we shift control 1. We can first only begin counting the NPV at the commercial operation date. So multiply that by our switch. Okay, and then after you do that, you go here and just start discounting afterwards. And to make sure it all works, the first thing we can put is put debt to COD. Right, and this debt at the COD is the beginning balance of the debt right at the commercial operation date. And I think we made an assumption, put that that's going to be 4,000 plus the 3,000. So if our system works here, we can take the sum product, and we can just take the cash flow available for debt service, and we can divide that. That's the big trick there. We can divide it by the same numbers for the CFADS. Now, to check that this works, we can do the same thing. compute the sum product, and this time take the debt service and divide that by CFAs. Now the problem here, and I almost mentioned that, so we've got a proof here that this all works. Okay. Now what we'd like to do is, instead of just doing this for the COD, of course the LLCR is the cash flow divided by the PV, the debt service. Now if you get technical, I think what you really should do, and I'm not sure if all the covenants work like this, but you should theoretically take that PV, the debt service, and this is like a net cash in a corporate scenario. If we have a debt service reserve account, where did I put the debt service reserve account? Okay, I put it here, and I didn't really put it in our sources and uses, but that's that would be an adjustment you should make. Why don't we to work on this? Let's just keep this DSRA at 0 for now. Okay, but that's the theory that just like cash reduces net debt in any kind of corporate analysis, you should do the same thing. Okay, and then we can, I suppose, put the LLCR up here. Okay, and now I get it. Okay, and the debt. This is something like a average of the. It's kind of an average of the DSCRs. Where's the DSCRs? And oh, this was. I'm sorry, I've got this in the wrong column, don't I? Now the question, the tougher question, is how do we do this? Oh shit! You know, if this happens like this, what you can do is you can go to conditional format. Oh, what a horrible thing! You can manage the rules, and then you can just, for some reason, and so at the very end, you can just put it like this. Okay, just put it on the whole. I feel like I'm doing a horrible job on this video, but I hope that we didn't. Just let's make sure that didn't replicate it somehow. Sometimes. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, so we can just leave that and then fix it kind of afterwards. Now, let's try to just compute the NPV using a NPV function. If it's a constant rate, I suppose what we could do is put a NPV, put a discount rate. And the discount rate, I hope okay. Oh shit! Did I? It looks like. Oh hell! Did I not? Just a minute. I thought. I'm sure I added the. Oh, this is okay because that's the semi-annual rate. Excuse me. Okay, so we could try to compute the NPV at our discount rate. Now our discount rate in this case I think would just be let's make a semi-annual discount rate. So I suppose we could, let's be lazy. Uh-oh. Just a minute, that was supposed to be, we were supposed to be equal. Okay. If we just put our equal discount rate in I'm gonna be kind of silly and take the interest rate. This is the semi-annual rate. And then for the CFADS, if we put an equal sign and go to the CFADS, if it's true, if it's the operating period, then we take the CFADS. Then we'll leave a false, and we absolutely want a false in this cell, and then we can be really flexible and just get the the reason you want a false is the then the NPV formula will ignore the equal NPV, and we take the semi-annual rate. We can even just shade it like this, or select it like this, and you get exactly the same result. So the problem, of course, with this is what happens if the interest rate is changing over time, and the second problem is what happens if we have two different debt issues, and the debt issues change. Let's try one more thing before we get finished with this. And this is kind of doing it by hand, but you could take the NPV, and what we'd have to do is what we want to do is use the X NPV. So if we wanted to use the X NPV, let's try this. Let's put if it's the operating period, then take the ending period. Otherwise, let's take the COD date for -1. So what we're going to do is always present value to just shift control 3. So this, whoops, shift control R. Now let's make sure and if you want this to be fixed, what you can do is you can put shift control right arrow, control space bar, kind of one of them wider. Whoops. What happened there? Did I press shift control 3 like I wanted to? Okay, I'm going to have to pause this for a minute. Okay, good. Going back to this, I'm just showing what I did. I, of course, forgot the F4 key, but so we keep the discount, the date the same until we hit the commercial operation date. This date is just the ending period. Okay, to the next ending period on all this. Remember, the reason we use the ending period is because we assume that the payments all occur at the end of the period. So you can put you can take this discount rate, okay, one plus the semi-annual discount rate. You can raise that to the second power. Subtract 1. That's going to be your annual discount rate. Put X NPV. We're up to the discount rate, so you need to adjust the discount rate. First, click on all of the CFADS. Click on this one, shift control, right arrow, and just press I just press the right arrow key and shift control, right arrow, and we have the same result from the XMPV. It's not exactly the same. I think the reason you get these really small differences is because the assumption of 365 days or something confusing the public. Okay. And 1 day off or something like that. Those are our different methods, and we've kind of proved that it all works because we could have also discounted the debt. So when we put this NPV, we could put an NPV of debt service, and that's equal to NPV. And we would have, I guess I'll put the debt service like this. Another debt service over here. Okay. But if it's operation period, then put a comma and take the debt service. Otherwise, we'll leave it false. Now, this does demonstrate that if you use the LLCR, you could use the beginning period debt if you're going to go forward, or you could use the closing balance of the prior debt. That's what this really shows. Because if we put NPV and we use 2%, and then we take all of our debt service, we get the same number. So we've just done this about 3 different ways. I'm not so excited. Now the hard part is, let's put the, I'm going to call this going forward. Going forward. So the problem with this is we have to just compute it going forward. Now, if we use this method that I like so much, which is to take the interest rates and just create a little index from them. The problem is, once we get to this index, then the next year we'd have to restart the index at this one, okay, and then we'd have to restart the index at this one, and we could make one of these depreciation type things that has all these little indexes, but it would take up a whole big sheet just to do that. That seems to be a waste. Now, if the interest rate is constant, we can put CFADS, PV of CFADS forward. I don't know how to really say that. And we can put the PV of the debt service forward. Okay, and the PV of the CFADS going forward is going to be, I suppose, we can use the same thing here. Let's put the, let's just use our regular old NPV calculation. So discount rate. Okay, just get this. We can just get this straight from the debt schedule. Okay. Whoops. The problem is going to be as soon as we start having a different discount rate for the 2 different a different discount rate for the 2 things. So Shift Control P, Shift Control R, and then you can put equal NPV. You can just push this, and we can go up to the CFADS. Might as well use this one. Okay, and you can just go forward. Now, I'll just give us a funny number because we had a low discount rate, but we really only want to do this if it's the operating switch. I'm tired. I'm going to Dubai. I'm in a little tiny hotel in Deira. Stay in this fancy hotel. Dubai. Okay, and the future value of the cash flow is going down over time. And then just to demonstrate how this works, we can also do the same thing by putting NPV of using the discount rate and then taking the NPV of the debt service. We might as well take this line up here. Okay, then we can go forward and put an if statement right in front of it. This is going really slowly because I can have this video on since I was in Africa. Put this one on. Shift control right arrow, and we have the debt balance. And now what we can do, why don't we do a check of the debt balance? So why don't we pick opening debt balance and put equal the opening balance of the first one plus the opening balance of the second one. Man, am I getting slow. Okay. Plus the opening balance of the second. Okay. So let's see if this works. We don't really care about it here. 7,000, 6,000. It all worked. Okay, and why don't we put an if statement on there? I want to do this. Operating switch is true. So we could, if we had a constant interest rate, if our interest rates were the same on both different securities, we could compute that, and basically I think that's really proof of the LLCR, and it's proof certainly that you should use the opening balance of the debt, and it's a proof that you can just go forward and compute this LLCR. So let's finish this up by putting an LLCR for, okay, now we can put it, if the denominator isn't 0, and we'll take the numerator divided by the denominator. Otherwise, hopefully false. Okay, and, so we get LLCR going forward, and hopefully, oops, we should have put a little thing that it's greater than 1. Oh, shoot. No, have I not been, oh man. Have I not been cutting off this is really embarrassing. Whenever we do this, let's put an if statement. Excuse me, this was kind of computing the PLCR. Let's only compute the CFADS when we have the debt outstanding. So let's put a little if statement on our debt switch. That's really bad. Excuse me for that. I'm doing this whole thing, and that's kind of the major point of the LLCR. So we just switched we just switched off the LLCR. After this, did I have to multiply that by 1 too? Oh shoot, because of XNBV calculation. Okay. Okay, and then we still get the same result, I hope, every single time. This is a much better proof of it, and I think what we should do is make this one, instead of just being, this says it's just not equal to 0, let's make it greater than 0.1 or something like that. All this seems, whoops, it's less than, of course. my God, I better stop here. Okay, this is going to get complicated. I'm not even sure how to do the rest of the stuff. So, AV 1 EV. Okay. Okay. This doesn't work. I'm going to start throwing things. Okay, I'm going to pause. This is ridiculous. Okay, so far, I think we're okay. What I did is apparently I didn't know you couldn't do this with false. I had the denominator had to be 0 if you're going to test it like this with a greater than 0.1. I didn't know that, so I was right the first time. God damn it! And then what you can do is the very last LLCR going forward, the very last one over here. This LLCR should be the same as the where's our DSCR? I just missed it. This 171. Okay, and even this second to last one should be similar, but that should be kind of exactly the same because our the whatever, we have one debt service payment. Is that PV? That PV is the same as the CFADS. It's a little bit less, but we're just counting them both the same. So I think that's a. You always get that. You should get that. Now here, let's try a couple of other ones. Let's try this with a different method, because the problem with this method is when we take the NPV of the NPV of the CFADS, we're using a constant rate, and then going forward we're using the NPV formula, and that's cheating. Because when the discount rate changes, because the interest rate changes, it's going to make a difference. And what in the hell do we do when it's we have two different debt issues? So that's going to be a pain. So I'm going to pause it for a minute and just try it. I've gone blabbering on for more than an hour on this. Okay, we could use the sum product command, it turns out. So if we want to do this with the sum product, let's first repeat the interest rate index. Okay, and let's just take the interest rate index we did before. Okay, Shift Control R. Then we go and compute the forward sum product, and we can try this. It's not going to work when we try it. We put sum product, okay, and we go up to the cash flow, Shift Control right arrow, divide that by the interest rate index. Okay, and we get this. Now we can. It went as soon if we do this. It gives us a divide by 0, and that's because we can't really go further than the last one. So we just copy this across, and then we get the same answer. Now if we go forward, we just get the same answer in the first one, but then it gives us a different one because our sum product here begins on the first one, but this one begins on the second one, so we have to make an adjusted. And all we have to do there is we can take this one, and just a minute. I think we have to divide it by the earlier one. So to fix this one, let's just do it once and demonstrate how it works. So this should have been 105, so we take the earlier one, excuse me, take the current one and multiply it by the last one, and you see you get the same thing we just did if we did the regular thing. So now if you can go forward on that and notice it's always the same. Now that's really good news, because if we have changing rates, now we have a method to adjust the changing rates. So let's just remind ourselves how to do this, or I'm going to remind myself. I take this one multiplied by the last one. Now that gives you 0, don't worry about that. And we put LLCR forward. Okay, and we just let's put let's only do this if it's the operating period, and then we'll divide cash flow divided by debt service, and we get our did I do it wrong? Sorry. Oh, Jesus. We didn't do the same thing. Let's do the same thing for the PV of the debt service. Let's just put debt balance, because we proved it. I don't think I have to prove it again with the sum product, because I'd have to do two things. So we should use the opening balance of debt. And then let's take if that divided by the debt balance. Okay. I should have also probably just only done this for the debt switch. We really should have put a debt switch up there instead of just... Oh, God. Finally. Alright, so that's... I hope you don't make as many mistakes. Okay, that's why I shouldn't be modeling anymore. Maybe that's what nobody calls me. Okay, and oops, shift control 1. Okay, so we have that one, and now we have two methods. And the good news about this method is when we go to our debt scenarios and when we try to summarize things, when we have the very simple case with equal interest rates, we're all okay. But if we go to the next scenario with equal rates for both the two debt issues, but one has an increasing interest rate, so one has an interest. Come on, they have to be a different number. Okay, I might have to. This might have been just too small to affect. Just a minute. And of course, maybe when I looked at the graphs, they didn't seem to be different either, so maybe there's a problem. Okay, so let's just make sure that really worked. Perhaps I put this has increasing interest rates. This is equal interest rates. Let me just make sure that they're really different. Okay, I was getting really worried about nothing because it was working. The interest rates are different. Look at this one. Okay, so debt number 2 has these interest rates that are changing over time, which is the same as the interest rates of debt 1 that was supposed to happen. Now when you go down to this one, you can see that the debt balance, the opening debt balance, and the present value of the debt is not exactly the same. It suggests there's an error. Why don't we put our debt balance proof here. Okay, so let's make sure the debt balance is really working here. We have this way to prove things by taking the net present value of the debt service. Debt balance from some product. I hope you don't product spell it all out. Okay. Put some product, and we take the debt service. Let's take one of the zeros. Shift Control right arrow, divide that by the discount rate. Shift Control right arrow. I'm gonna fit. We have to do this fixing of the last one. And then when we do the fixing of the last one, we have to do this whole other thing where we multiply this one by the prior number. So because of our adjustment going forward, and we have our debt balance, and watch it not work, and then I'll have to turn the video off again. Okay, I don't know. Look at this for once. Something worked. So this one, we kind of proved that the sum product method worked going forward, while the other one didn't. I'm going to take this one and put where's our little switch for our second debt issue. Okay, so that's the sum product function. Now, here is the problem. So if we have one debt issue, and the interest rates then are of course the same on that issue, then our sum product function will work. Here is the next problem, however. And the next problem is what happens if the interest rates are different on the two debt issues. How do we take some kind of weighted average? We could just take a simple weighted average of the debt, but that might not be really correct. If you have one debt issue that has a really high interest rate of 15% or something, and another one that has a 0, I'm not sure that it's really correct just to simply take an average. So I'm going to switch the video off. I have to remember how to do this next one. I'm going to try to go one step further. Okay, I'm back, and now it's another morning. I'm in a coffee shop. So to really do this, let's just review, since it's such an extremely long video. What we did, let me put it back to our basic rates, and we first used the sum product technique, but then we tried the NPV technique rather, and then we have the going forward with the constant rate, which wasn't so difficult, but the problem was that we couldn't get that rate if we have a mixture of different debt securities and everything else. And then we can do something like that with the sum product command, so we don't match that. Sorry about the background noise, but when we do that, we still need a discount rate, and we need to weight the discount rate between the two things. So to introduce this, let's compute the debt cash flow. The debt cash flow, now I'm not using any fees. I'm just going to take the amount we spend for the debt and then the amount we get back in IDC, and then the amount that we get back in total debt service. And just like any other cash flow, we have a negative and a positive. I'm a strong believer in computing the debt IRR. Now, if we begin at the very first period, we can, let's compute X IRR as we normally do. Now, if we do this from the first period, we get a 4.044% annual IRR, which is just really what we were supposed to get. I get a couple of, excuse me there, it's very early and I'm a little tired. I get some different numbers. Excuse me again. Now, if we went to try to compute it here, we'd ignore this number. We could take the opening balance here and take all our cash flows and try to do this. Let's try to do it here. So if I go to the, do we have the debt balance? Where's the actual debt balance? I might not have it here. So if I, come on, okay, we'll go and take the opening balance of the first debt, and then we'll take the opening balance of the second debt. Okay, now let's say I can copy that backwards and forwards. Oops, you know, watch this. This is gonna get me all pissed off. See, because of the conditional formatting. Okay, if we now, okay, now let's pretend that we take this opening balance and spend it in just the very period just before this. And then we'll take our cash flow on a debt subsequent to that, okay? And then we'll compute the X IRR now. Whoops, and this has to be a negative, excuse me. Okay. Let's open the bracket. Shift control right arrow. Go back. Take the closing date. Okay. And we get, I don't know if it's exactly the same number. Sometimes with XIRR, I can't seem to get exactly the same number, but it's about the same thing. So I'm going to call this XIRR with prospective cash flows. Now the problem with this, I hope you can start to see, is the good news is we have the 4.04 we want, and then the better news is that when we go to switch to our gray area here, we could do the same sort of thing and put a minus here, and then put this here, and I could shift control R, and then I could compute the XIR, shift control right arrow. We have the closing balance. Oh, this shit. Huh. It didn't give me exactly the right number. let me try this. Just let's try IRR when we get down to this one. And then it works beautifully. Shift Control P. And that's, the discount rate we were using up here. We use this discount rate. So now we could just go forward. Now, the best news of all is that if we wanted to do it for the next period, we could do another thing where we, this time, I'm going to put a minus on the opening balance, put the cash flow in. Okay. And then we put a IRR. And we get exactly our same IRR. And we can go forward now. When we change this, and we put increasing interest rates, we get a different number, and a different number in each period, which we want to get. And if we have a different rate for the two different ones, we get a different one. And then we can go all to all the rest of this. Okay. So this is really the best way to do it. Now the problem is we have this diagonal pattern. And this diagonal pattern, we'd have to kind of do it separately each period down here, and that would be a real pain. So now what I'm going to have to do is show you how to do this one with a function that will go forward, and then when we put a function going forward, we can just use the NPV function with different IRRs, and when we use the different IRRs, you'll get by definition, IRR is equal to NPV, so we'll really reconcile back to the true value of the debt, and even further, we'll of course be able to use that same discount rate to compute the net present value of the cash flow, and finally get the LLCR. Now I'm gonna put this in a separate file, because this is going on too long. So let's stop this file and let's look at a separate analysis.